Hello, May class, and welcome to your next English lesson. In today's lesson, we are going to be using the information that you gathered in the previous lesson about Mrs. Bowen. So if you don't have that on hand, please go and get that and then bring it back. Make sure you've also got a piece of paper and a pencil to do our box up today. You may also need to have a ruler. Right. On Friday, you watched an interview with Mrs. Bowen and you learned a lot of information about her, and hopefully you learned enough that we can use to create our non-chronological report about Mrs. Bowen. So we're going to be using the notes that you took, and we're going to hopefully be boxing up some ideas of what we could include in our writing. So we're going to go through some of the information that we collected in the previous lesson, and I'm going to show you the spider diagram that I created with the information that we can then look at. Now, the information is quite a lot because I typed as I did it, but we are then going to take ideas out of it that we think maybe will be important, and we will use this in our box up. Right, so you can see that actually when I was writing this out, I put some subheadings that I thought we could use when we were writing and with the information. So you can see I've got something about Mrs. Bowen's early life. I've got her first interest, what interested her first. I've got becoming a teacher. I've got teachers or a teacher that inspired her. I've written a bit about being a head teacher. What's her favorite thing about being a head teacher? What does she think the qualities of a good leader are? I've also got things that Mrs. Bowen does for fun and any special skills that she has. So this is obviously going to be used in our box up today. So you can already see that I have helped myself a little bit by using my subheadings or creating subheadings to organize my thoughts when I've been doing my spider diagram. Okay, so I'm going to quickly highlight these so you can see. And now I may not use all this information in my non-chronological report. I could, but I may not need all of it. I would just use specific things that maybe I think will be important when we are writing. So I'm going to have a look quickly and think, all right, I think I'm going to use early life. I think that these ones here, things to do for fun, will be useful. Maybe what her first interests were, how she became a teacher. Maybe I want to say being a head teacher, what it's like, what her favorite thing about being a head teacher is. And I'm going to try and include that in my writing. So your paragraphs might be a little bit different because obviously you may decide to use different paragraphs or different information in yours. You may decide to use all the information. That's okay. But I'm going to use some of it. So those are the ones that I'm going to use for now. All right, let's clear this. Okay, so our box up, we can see that we have got an introduction, right? We have got our paragraphs, and I can see in my box up that I haven't actually, I'm going to see if I can zoom in a little bit. I haven't actually put labels on my box ups just yet, okay? Because that I can change now, and I will hopefully be able to, that will be decided on what I'm going to write about. But what I can do is I can do some of my innovation for my introduction, which is what we are going to be writing tomorrow. So in my text map, I can see that I have got a rhetorical question. I've got an introduction to what the whole non-chronological report is going to be about. And I've written that we need to say, read on to find out more. And I've written that this was in the past tense. And I want you to think for a moment. This one may be a little bit different. And I want you to think, why would it be different? Remember that Boudica was a historical figure. Mrs. Bowen, however, is someone that we very much see every day anyway when we're in school. So actually, it would be about something that's happening now or a person that is still alive now. So we'll be writing in the present tense. And that's why we have gone over a bit of present tense and past tense. So our text map was in the past tense, but this one is going to be in the present tense. The first part of my introduction says that it should include a rhetorical question. Now, this will get our readers thinking and wanting to read more of the non-chronological report. So a lot of our rhetorical questions start with, have you ever wondered? So I'm going to write, have you ever wondered? And then I'm going to do that because we will then obviously add to this when we go. We're going to turn our notes into sentences in the next lesson. We're going to look at doing that. So this is just key ideas that I'm writing down. So have you ever wondered is a good start to a rhetorical question. You could also say, do you want to know? You could say, have you thought about, I suppose, is another one. So it can be something like that. Then I'm going to introduce what the whole non-chronological report is about. And this is going to link back to my rhetorical question. So I'm going to say, fantastic head teacher. Okay, because maybe I want to mention that. Maybe I want to say what being a head teacher is like. Maybe I want to say about or how someone leads an outstanding school. So pause the video now and write some notes in your introduction. Okay, so from my notes, you can see I've added a little bit extra into that. And I've said, have you ever wondered? Okay, but then I've said some ideas of what we could ask for that rhetorical question. I've said, have you ever wondered? And it could be what being a fantastic head teacher is like, or what a fantastic head teacher looks like, or what a fantastic head teacher, or how a fantastic head teacher runs a school. You could also say, have you ever wondered what being a head teacher of an outstanding school is like? And then underneath that, I've written, leads a school, because obviously I'm writing the present tense. So that sentence could say something like, read on to find out more about a head teacher who leads a school or who leads an outstanding school in Slough. I haven't mentioned that it's Mrs. Bowen, but I've suggested that it is a head teacher who runs an outstanding school, and I'm going to be talking about the job that she does. So pause the video now and add anything else to your introduction that you think might be important. We then move on to our first paragraph. Now, having a look at all the information, if I go back about Mrs. Bowen, which one do you think would be important now to start it off? I think that we should start with early life, because then it can lead into different paragraphs of how she became a head teacher, what she studied, what being a head teacher is like. Those are all things that come out of where she started off and who she was. So we could say, and this is the information that we wanted to keep. So Mrs. Bowen grew up in Langley and went to school in Langley. She went to St. Joseph's in Wexham, and she had a very strict head teacher who always wanted them to do their very best. So we could say more details. So I could say as a subheading here, maybe I want to say early life. And in here, I'm going to write, so we could say grew up. Remember, it's just points that you can then turn into full sentences. So grew up in Langley, went to school in Langley and Wexham, had a very strict head teacher who wanted them to always try their best. Okay, we could also say, mention, if we go back, maybe something about secondary school, and we could also mention that her father was into computers and she decided to be just like him, and then that would have then said that Mrs. Bowen went to university and got a degree in computer systems. This could all go into an introductory the first paragraph about her early life before she became a teacher. So we can go and make some notes and say that Mrs. Bowen grew up in Langley, went to school in Langley and Wexham, had a very strict head teacher, wanted them to always be their best. Father in, what did we write about his computers? We wrote, father was into computers, and she wanted to be like him. To computers, wanted to be just like him. So, and then we could say went to university and studied. And it's important that we get the facts right. So we need to make sure that we get what she studied. And Mrs. Bowen got a degree in business computer systems. So we could say went to studied, got a degree in business computer systems. Okay, and that would be a really good way to start our early life paragraph, or end it up, because remember, we're linking it to our topic sentence of where she grew up and what she studied. And then we would then, once we finished that paragraph, we can move into how she got into teaching. So if we go back and have a look at this, we can see that we could have a heading of becoming a teacher. So I'm going to go and say that this heading is called Becoming a Teacher. Remember, you can use your subheadings that you've thought of, okay? And I can see, let's have a look at and check off some of the things that I have used. More detail, so we've got a bit more detail. I've said where Mrs. Bowen lived, what she did. She studied and got a degree in computer systems, and then it's also got some facts that are included. Now, my next paragraph is going to be a bit different, because the one that we have in our non-chronological report is a description of Boudica, but I haven't quite got to the description of Mrs. Bowen yet, because I want to say how she became a teacher. I think that's really important. So we're going to say that we're going to do that in here, but we're looking for descriptive language. We're also describing, maybe we can use some of the vocabulary that we've got in here. So she wanted to make a difference with people and help people, studied to be a teacher, and worked really hard and showed a lot of resilience and commitment to her work, because that's then describing what she was doing and how she did all of that. So pause the video now and have a look at your next paragraph. So I've finished writing my notes for my next paragraph about becoming a teacher. So I've said after university, Mrs. Bowen worked in an office. She was bored and wanted to, or she didn't like it. So we could say was unhappy is probably a better word. And wanted to do more to help people, decided to become a teacher and went back to college. And then I've written down some vocabulary words that we can draw on. So I've written that she was resilient, she was hardworking, and she showed a lot of commitment. Okay. Then we can move on to our third paragraph. And we can maybe use the information about being a head teacher. So we could talk about once Mrs. Bowen finished the studying, she obviously taught in year 4 and year 5 and year 2. We've said all of this bit here, and did a lot of extra courses and how best they learned over and she has over 20 years of experience. So that is something that we can then have in our next paragraph. So let's pause the video now and write that. So my paragraph 3 is going to be about being a teacher, or so this one was becoming a teacher, life as a teacher is going to be my subheading. And I've got that I've started as a teacher. She started as a teacher in year 4. She went to year 2 and headed up Key Stage 1, then led year 5 and year 6 in Key Stage 2. She did lots of extra courses on how to support children and how best they learn. And then we've got that Mrs. Bowen now has over 20 years of experience. So now we can talk about Mrs. Bowen now. So like I said, this would be in the present tense because obviously Mrs. Bowen is still alive now, but we would have a bit about the past tense because it is focusing on what she did, and now we're looking at writing in the present tense of what she is like now. So maybe now we are going to give a description of Mrs. Bowen as the head teacher. So Mrs. Bowen as a head teacher. Okay. Remembering some of the things that we've written, topic sentences, have we included conjunctions? You can write down some of the things that you would maybe use. Are there some fronted adverbials that you could use in this? And then obviously we are going to talk about Mrs. Bowen as a head teacher now. So let's go back and have a look at some of the important things that we think for that would be important when we're talking about Mrs. Bowen now as a head teacher. If we go back, we've got that that she is at a school that is seen as a school family, and it's one of the things she's really proud of is that it is a very supportive environment. And her favorite thing was obviously having built a community within the school. Our school is a community, and it's the best community she's in, and one to be proud of in Slough. So that's something really important, maybe. Mrs. Bowen says that it's good to have ideas, it's good to listen. We could also actually put a short paragraph about what Mrs. Bowen looks like, because I think that I've had some very good descriptions of her. She always looks very well presented. She's always wearing high heels. Maybe you want to say that she always wears bright, colorful clothing, always looks very smart. Those are all fantastic things that I think Mrs. Bowen would look like. So if you had to describe her to someone, how would you describe her? Your other paragraph could also have, you could have a little fact box. Maybe you want to have a fun fact box about things she likes to do for fun or special skills. So I'm going to let you plan your last paragraph about Mrs. Bowen as a head teacher yourself. And then remember, when we're looking at our conclusion, I want you to link it back to what we asked at the very beginning about, where is it? Over here, about a fantastic head teacher, what it's like being a head teacher, leading a school. So we could say things like leading a school requires, and then we could think about some of the things Mrs. Bowen said. So she said that you need to make decisions about what's best for school, be a kind person, you need to be humble, you need to be able to make things exciting. And we could link that to the fact that that is the type of person Mrs. Bowen is. And in these ways, it shows that she's a really good leader of our school because she exemplifies, and that is one of our vocabulary words from our story map. She exemplifies what a good leader is. So that would be obviously the conclusion to our non-chronological report. So I'm going to write the word exemplifies. And that is my conjunction because, and then I would say good listener, interesting ideas, kind, has built a wonderful community for children to learn in. Okay, so I've just put in some of my keywords, and then you can then finish your box up by filling in some of the vocabulary words that you can use and complete this information. So I have spoken through how you can do this, and your tasks are as follows. Would like you to box up the information that you have collected about Mrs. Bowen. Just like I've shown you, you may have collected slightly different information that you have broken up slightly differently. Draw a picture of Mrs. Bowen that can be included in your non-chronological report. There's always a picture with a caption, so explaining. Maybe you want to have a picture of Mrs. Bowen sitting at her desk, working hard. Maybe you would like to include Mrs. Bowen standing outside her outstanding school in Slough. It's up to you. And then as a third task, I would like you to create a checklist for yourself that can be used when you are writing your non-chronological report, and include things that you may need in that non-chronological report. So you can refer back to our toolkit that you created right at the beginning of this topic. Don't forget to share your ideas with us and share your box up with us, and please make sure to keep hold of your box up because you will be using it tomorrow to write our introductory paragraph.